What's going on, guys? No Life Ols here, coming at you with another video. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you raw footage of how I go about studying in terms of memorizing notes for practical use. Because I think that when you're learning new concepts, there's almost a few stages in which you can't neglect in order to get that full comprehension of whatever topic you're learning about.
Word, you know what I mean? You know, that reading shit, you know what I mean?
And so the first being to read up on the topic, the second being to make notes of the topic, and the third being to not necessarily memorize, but to revise those notes to an extent where you are able to recall. And the fourth step, which is active recall. So to actually practice and recall what you've written down so that when it comes up in conversation, you're able to take advantage of the knowledge in your mind and I guess form a coherent argument or idea to somebody who might be an expert in the field, or they may be a friend that you're trying to explain a concept to. I am a true believer in the idea that if you have the ability to explain a topic, whatever topic that may be, whether it's in science or commerce or even art, for example, if you're able to explain this concept directly to someone who is not in the field, or even what I would like to do is explain it to a child, then that will really show that you have a fundamental understanding of the work that you're doing, and you're not just recalling for the sake of recalling, but instead actually developing that cognition of the idea that you are actually researching. Like, the video is inherently boring and weird because the only way really to practice application and active recall is to talk to yourself. And my parents would be, I guess, notorious for catching me talking to myself in the study at late hours of the night.
What are you doing? What are you doing? No, what are you doing? What are you doing? No, what are you doing? What are you doing?
And I had to assure them that no, I'm not a psychopath. I'm in fact just practicing active recall. So yeah, I hope you find this video educational. It doesn't really matter what I'm saying.
It doesn't matter!
It's more about what I'm trying to get at in the process. Hopefully you liked the video. Make sure to leave a thumbs up and give me some feedback in terms of whether or not this video was good or educational or trash. And that will, I guess, give me an indicator as to whether or not I should make more study videos. Anyway, let's get into it. So pretty much what I have here is a series of notes which I curated over the past 16 weeks. I know that it's extremely neat, but you have to realize that I guess everybody has their preferences and their processes. My process is quite odd in that the first time that I listen to new information, I will write down notes for that topic, just sketch them down very roughly, out of order. It's kind of like convoluted to an extent where I wouldn't be able to revise those notes and completely understand what I meant by every single sentence that I wrote. So then what I do is I rewrite those notes and formulate them in a coherent and logical order. That will allow me to then go, okay, well, these are the notes that we have. And then the last step, which is to rewrite those notes again into my book I carry around in my bag all the time. And then that will allow me to have a clear understanding of what it is I'm trying to actually comprehend. In terms of content or recall, I think that it's good to just practice recall every day for certain topics.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
And then over a period of time, extend that until you're recalling that information every 2 weeks or so. For example, week 1 notes. You would go to that week's notes and you would try to actively recall what's on the page, which would, I guess, consolidate the information that's in your mind and formulate it in a way that can be logically expressed verbally. And then after the first day of recall, try it again the next day. And then after 3 days, try it again. And then after another 4 days, try again. And then a week, and then 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, and then maybe like once a month from that point on. I think that really helps with consolidation of information. I know sometimes it seems like you have a lot of information on the page, but if you do this throughout your undergrad semester and constantly are actively recalling, which is one of the more important components of going to university, it will make your life a lot easier come exam week, because while everybody's cramming in information, you're just reconsolidating the information that you've already been able to actively recall over the last few months. So yeah, I'm just going to get into it and pretend that the camera's not in for the sake of raw footage, as I said. Okay. So you go week 3, we're talking about terminology. And the type of terminology we're talking about So carcinoma is predominantly found in the epithelial tissue. Majority of cancers that exist generally have, I believe that it's 90% of cancers are considered carcinomas, not only because of the fact that they are, generally speaking, the most exposed areas to the external environment and carcinogens, but in contrast to something like a terminally differentiating cell, one which divides and doesn't continue to replicate because it senesces, if a terminally differentiating cell was able to develop a mutation which allowed it to proliferate extensively, because those cells generally don't proliferate despite having the mutation, it would prevent it would be a useless mutation. And so that's something that I guess carcinomas and epithelial tissue don't have in common with those terminally differentiating cells, in that these are highly proliferating cells, and wherever there's high proliferation, it generally means that we're going to be extensively having increasing the probability in which cancer can develop or mutations can develop, giving that cell progeny selective advantages to then transgress into the development of cancer. And so the other types of general cancers that we like to talk about are sarcomas. Sarcomas being specific types of cancer that occur primarily, or I'd say strictly, in the connective tissue. This can include in the bone marrow, I believe, the muscles, sorry, not the bone marrow, no, that's considered peripheral tissue. But connective tissue being, I guess, bone in general, muscles, cartilage, etc. So then we have what's called leukemias, which are hematological malignancies or cancers that can exist within the blood system. And those types of cancers have the ability to float around the peripheral blood system and, I guess, form relative deposits around the body, or relative deposits of metastases around the body. But in essence, leukemia is simply when white blood cells, including any type of monocyte, granulocyte, or even lymphocyte that contains the combination or set of mutations which allow it to proliferate uncontrollably, remove replicative senescence, contain genetic instability, change their metabolism even to survive in low oxygen conditions, which I believe is called the Warburg effect, when cancer cells move their cellular respiration into anaerobic respiration, which is in essence without oxygen. And so, yeah, that's what leukemia is. Then we have lymphomas, which are specifically an increase, lymphomas, which is specifically white blood cell cancers that exist within the lymphatic system. Lymphatic system being the system which almost acts as a large filter and immunosurveillance mechanism for all the fluid from all the tissues in the body before going through the thoracic duct in the subclavian vein and exiting into the circulatory system. It's, in terms of when we talk about benign and malignant cancers, benign tumors, although not inherently dangerous at certain stages, what they're really doing is developing a combination of selective advantages in terms of mutations, as the ones that I just previously mentioned, senescence, genetic instability, etc. And this is allowing those cells within that benign environment almost to create a breeding ground for that mutation that allows cell adhesion molecules to downregulate, or allows those cells to exit and intravasate into the vasculature system and move around to form malignancies. So malignant cancer is, simply to put it, a benign tumor that then gains the ability to enter circulation and move to secondary tissues, causing a secondary tumor. I believe you can have, you can also have nervous system cancers as well, in the nervous tissue, such as the brain. However, I believe that it is rare, just based on the ability for neuronal cells, the inherent nature of neuronal cells to be terminally differentiating cells, meaning that they aren't dividing rapidly, and so the chance of mutations occurring to that area in a primary is quite low. Having said that, cancer development in the brain does occur relatively often as a secondary tumor site, so as an actual metastatic site, for certain types of primary cancers, including melanoma, primary lung cancers, or even if you develop secondary lung carcinomas, then that will generally end up spreading to the brain. So I guess in specific tissues, you also have classifications of different types of cancer. So, for example, in the I guess it's the exocrine glands, which is secreting, hormones and all that. So pancreas and the islets and the gastrointestinal system, the liver. These cell types generally contain masses within these certain types of exocrine glands are technically considered adenomas. Adenomas, which are just benign cancer developments in those specific tissues. Having said that, when an exocrine gland becomes malignant, we then will call it adenocarcinoma, because the cells that are found in the exocrine glands are inherently epithelial tissue, and so because of that we add the the suffix carcinoma instead of sarcoma. And the contrast to that would be something like cancer development in the chondrocytes, so chondromas, which is the connective tissue cancers, which generally can, when you say chondroma, you're referring to a benign cancer cell, from my knowledge. And when they become metastatic, we would not call them chondroma carcinomas or chondrocarcinomas, we'd call them chondrosarcomas, because of the fact that chondrocytes are connective tissue and sarcomas refer to metastatic developments in cancer, refer to cancer development in those specific types of cells. Another thing to note is that just because cancer exists or can develop in, say, let's say the skin, there are different components of the skin, and they can occur differently, and these are differentiated as, these are distinguished as individual diseases. For example, melanoma is not the same as basal cell carcinoma. Basal cell carcinoma occurs in the basal epidermal skin layer, in those stem cells, and melanoma generally occurs in melanocytes, which produce melanin to produce the dark, which is a dark pigment in your skin. Alright guys, I think that's enough. I think you get the point. I know I look like a little bit of a psychopath, but having said that, I do think that the exercise is a very useful technique in that it'll give you the ability and the confidence to discuss these topics to individuals and bounce ideas off each other to find and, I guess, develop new ideas. Like I said, I hope you like this video. I'm probably going to cut it short just for the sake of not looking like an absolute psychopath. Yeah, I hope you like this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Take care.